I've sort of actively made decisions for myself, in terms of my career, in terms of pursuing filmmaking, in terms of even getting married at a very young age at 25. All of these decisions feel quite unconventional, maybe. I remember there was still, at least during my time, there was still a lot of stigma, for, a kid having done O-levels and doing pretty well, not doing the A-levels and pursuing the arts, especially pursuing sort of like film, because, especially when you're from a, like middle-class Chinese family, most parents will be very worried. How am I going to support myself in the future? Every time you go into a country, right, and then you have to fill in a form, an immigration card or something, I always am very self-conscious when I have to fill up occupation, because in Singaporean society, I'm not even sure if an actual occupation is like director, writer, filmmaker. But I think now I'm really blessed with two things. I found what I really wanted to do in life, and I think I found a lifelong partner. One of my biggest advice, like to a lot of young Singaporeans is, it's very important to find the right partner in life, because I realized that it runs parallel with your work, your ambition, your career.
你整天就会看穿你老公啊！
你不可以脚踏实地一点，安分守己一点。签什么局势，做什么生意，可以不要讲了嘛？
I feel, at least for most people in Singapore, we sort of define happiness through very material things, like how much you earn in your job, and whether you can afford a nice property, or whether you have a car. And I think there's a lot of material sort of comforts, even though I know, that feels like a stereotype. But at least for me, I do not wish to define happiness in that way. For me, it's always the simple things in life, For me, I always find pleasure in sort of like cooking for my family. I like to think that at least in my work, I capture sort of like a sort of a truth, a sort of honesty. But at the same time, I make films that are very local, very specific to our society, our culture. I also think it's also because I've lived abroad for some time, and it gave me new perspective and a kind of objectivity that perhaps I didn't have that sort of distance. I think my identity hasn't changed. I think once you're, like you're born a Singaporean, you'll always be a Singaporean, because there are certain things in you that, for example, even though, yes, most people would say I took a very unconventional sort of path, but at the same time, I'm not a huge risk taker. Like even with my work, I take a long time to write the script. I'm very prudent financially, because I'm Singaporean. Like people say like, it's not about being cheapskate. Even when I buy an air ticket, I would go and compare, when most people would just go in and then just I think there's a certain pragmatism, there is a certain sort of Singaporeanness that you never, get rid of. It's always worthwhile, to spend proper time elsewhere. And that's when you start to see things that you perhaps might not see. How does it feel to be a minority? How does it feel to be in a place where, you're struggling with language, you're lost in translation? I think that is how we grow as people. For example, living in London, like every day you have to sort of wake up and still fight, struggle, prove yourself, like why you're as good as your white middle-class peers. When I'm working on a project, like why, this sort of like Chinese Singaporean boy from a small country, should, work on an English language film or a TV series or something like that. I actually find it very humbling. For me, it's really straightforward. If you want something badly enough, you just need to go and get it, and if you try the first time and it's not working out, you try second time and you still fail. But if there's something, there's that burning desire that's telling you that you still need to, go at it. Unfortunately, especially, in the arts or, like in film per se, it's not a maths or science. There are no set formulas to it. For example, not everyone is a director. I realize that because it takes a certain personality, it takes a certain type. Of course, it takes a certain skill sets and talents as well. But there's so many sort of like, areas in film, like from producing to costume design, to set design, to even makeup and sound and all that. And you can still contribute, you can still be part of the work. I've never tried to measure my success financially because, to be honest, like maybe amongst my peers, whether like, locally or internationally, like I'm definitely not making a lot. And I think in a way, sometimes I also don't pay myself well enough. I tend to do certain things that do not pay as well. I'm quite at peace with myself because for me, it's more important that I can confront my work. There's a really sort of like well-known producer that spoke to me, like, Anthony, it's never about chasing the money, because when the time comes, the money is so much that you don't even know like what to do with it,